You can work with images inside Animate, both in animation, and then bring them in for some extra special effects if you have needs. We have covered a little bit of working with imagery when we created some bones and bone rigs for that. We can see how we can animate some of that, but I want to call your attention to some of the features really specifically set up just for images themselves. We'll create an image layer, and if you have access to the working files, go ahead and go to the Chapter 8 section and come down and choose Tree Solo. It's a photo that I took of a tree, and I removed the background out of it just so I have it to work with for a whole variety of purposes. Now, why would you really want to bring images into Animate? Well, for characters, you can actually create them in like Corel Photo Paint, Photoshop, those types of programs that allow you to do types of effects you can't get working with vector imagery. The other reason is you may want to go ahead and bring in imagery just to use as a pseudo background and make it look like vector art, and we'll look at both those options. To get to the image options you have available, what we need to do is double click on the image layer. We'll do that, and as always, we get our layer settings for the image area right here. We can change the name if we want to, but we'll come over to the image tab specifically. One thing I want to call your attention to is that by default, when you bring in images, the warp using bones option is enabled. And if you use some of the newer warp bone options, you can get some really cool effects with images, and it's perfect for illustrated characters that have that look that comes from only something you can get out of an image-based editing program like that. How else might you want to use images? Well, you may want to turn on the toon settings. This is a common trick I use when I want a level of sophistication to the environment, but still make it look like a 2D type of animation. I'll turn this on, and we see our tree all of a sudden kind of change character here. The colors flatten out, and then we get some detail here in the darker areas or the edges. We've got very few options we can modify right here, and really working with them, the success of how well they work or don't is really based on the source imagery. I can't modify color here. I can't modify the blackness. I can't turn the black to red or anything like that. So if you're trying to match colors, you may have to go back and forth with the image program you're getting it from, because you can't change those colors here. You can go ahead and try to cheat a little bit and bring in some color vector layers and mask them to this, but that's a lot of work. So with this done right here, let's explore just a few of these options right here. If there is simply too many edges, I can go ahead, and right now we've got an edge level of 216. You can start reducing these and just see how it shapes up to your file. Every number you add right here, you'll see a dynamic update. If you're not updating here, and sometimes it doesn't with the systems, just press the tab button without clicking necessarily apply or OK. It will take you to the next data entry field and in theory update the image you're working with right here. We can go ahead if we wanted to push this further into the background and bump up the lightness, maybe adding this to 50 or something. We see our trunk starting to go away. So it's a real give and take procedure as you work with this, but you can rapidly take a photo and make it look like a 2D item just with a ton of detail, and that's kind of nice. If I take this back up, say, to 215, we see now we get some real light strokes. The black's just not working. Again, know these options are here to play with. Really easy to go ahead and create this high contrast imagery if you'd like to, working with images inside of Anime Studio Pro.